Hello and welcome to Two Nerds on a Couch. I'm Thor.
And I'm Beth. With the end of Chapter 4 in just a few days, and the time machine strapped to the rocket, we thought we would take a look back at what a crazy ride the last several months have been. We've combed through the events, the map changes, and the audio logs to bring you a recap of the storyline for this chapter.
Please think about using code Two Nerds on a Couch to support content like this. Now get some snacks and grab a seat for a while as we recap Chapter 4.
Since the storyline is a continuation of Chapter 3's storyline, we'll pick it up with the last reality attacking the island. They were spreading chrome over the entire island, which led up to the fracture event. The island exploded and the 0 point zoomed away to a new area. The Paradigm used Zero Fusion to help the 0 point forge a new island. She sacrificed herself to save us. Our journey begins on a brand new island, in a new reality with the 0 point safely tucked away, for now. An important thing to note is that Jonesy is nowhere to be found on this Chapter 4 island, but we will return to that point later. Our story picks up with guidance from Amy. She tells us we were given a final mission from the Paradigm. Once we gather the pieces of the mission and Amy decodes it, she tells us what the mission is.
She wanted us to bring this box of rocks to the quarry?
And then she kinda goes off the deep end.
I might not understand you, but I'll always covet your skeletons. Especially the tibias. Wait, with all of the 7 MIA, once we complete this task, my primary directive will be complete. And I'll be free to do whatever I want. Uh-oh.
The jolly old time of Winterfest brought in new characters to Crackshot's cabin with help from the 0 point. Sergeant Winter roamed the island throwing presents to good loopers and coal to bad loopers. There was a map change beyond the decor of Winterfest. A new, something was found on the tower to the north of the Citadel. The plans made it look like a Stargate was about to be constructed. A few weeks later, with Winterfest wrapped up for the season, New Year's celebrated, and the loot pool returned to normal. Sylvie was given out to those who were part of the Fortnite crew, and we also got back into the storyline with the second part of the Oathbound quests and the base of the Stargate construction. We were introduced to Rift Warden Stellan, and he let us know that the Ageless Champion instructed him to build a Rift Gate. Amy is curious about things and a little worried about the Rift Gate, but she decides to have us test it while she does some research. We grab some items from around the island. She implants chips into those items, and then we send them through her test Rift Gate. When the items return, they are different, corrupted even. And one brings us a warning about the scientist and the other members of the 7. The last piece tells us we will find the scientist, but warns us we may not be able to save him. Amy decides to use the Rift Gate to find the scientist the moment it becomes available.
The second that gate is online, I need to be ready to use it, to find him, before it's too late.
Once the third set of Oathbound quests were available, we continued on with our story. Stellan starts confessing about his intentions and how originally he came to the Oathbound with nothing, and at the behest of the Shapeless Man. We have to find a new power source, the kinetic ore. It must be stabilized and refined to yield the most power. Meanwhile, Amy comes back into the storyline to tell us she needs a body and we need to help her. She says her goodbyes and tells us to survive. Or don't.
Stay safe out there. Or don't. It's funnier that way.
Rift Knight Kieran was introduced as the March Crew Pack character. We learned that Kieran is the apprentice of Sylvie, and together they defeated the Ageless Champion with Excalibur rifles. Once we got to the 23.50 update, the Rift Gate had been activated, and Part 4 of the Oathbound quest continued the storyline once again. Stellan has been keeping the truth from the Ageless Champion. Stellan becomes more and more unhinged.
I cannot sleep. The Shapeless Man's gaze burns into me. He does not care if opening the gate rends the island in two. Turn on the rift gate. If it is unstable. The stars will determine our fate.
The rift gate is turned on and is unstable because someone manipulated the coordinates.
Something worth mentioning is that throughout the season there have been various rift encounters or rift events that brought in a huge plethora of things, from a couple of dueling NPCs to a very random container of wolves, and even hidden storyline bits with members of the Fox clan.
In the last few days of the season, the Cipher Quest brought us encrypted messages with clues about what's coming next. Would these new characters help us in our fight to save the Seven? Or will they side with the Shapeless Man and Stellan? In the last weeks of Season 1, Amy changed the coordinates of the Rift Gate to try and save the scientist. Once the coordinates were tampered with, and Amy had gone through, something malfunctioned with the Rift Gate. And this is how we were introduced to Fortnite Mega.
Week 1 of the season, we were exploring the newest biome and areas of the island with Mega City, Kinjutsu Crossing, Steamy Springs, and Naughty Nets. Loot Lake Island mysteriously rifted in, and we discovered combat caches that contained a new version of Slurp Juice. And rift events or rift encounters were still going strong.
Through the Syndicate quest, aka the storyline quest of the season, we were reintroduced to Evie, who is part of the Peace Syndicate. Turns out Mega City is her hometown, and there was a big problem. All of the syndicates were about to be at war for some unknown reason, and it was up to us to find that reason. She introduced us to Thunder.
Name's Thunder.
And we had to win his approval. As we were investigating to find out who the Saboteur is, we discovered they were using this looming inter-syndicate war as a distraction. The Saboteur is teaming with the Last Reality.
There was a set of tasks which had us doing things in order to impress the Fox clan and the River Guard in order to get them talking. Once everyone met up and had discussions, they realized there was no real quarrel between them and decided to work together with the Peace Syndicate.
Something that was never explained is that strange pillars showed up near the Citadel, near Naughty Nets, and in the snow biome. What was the purpose of those pillars? Will we ever find out? A few cracks started appearing around the middle of the map with subtle earthquakes. Once the third installment of the Syndicate quest became available, we discovered that the Luminaries messaged the Peace Syndicate that the Saboteur was stealing weapon prototypes from their labs. We find out that the Saboteur is embedded with the Unseen, and when we talk to Mystica, she mentions that they could be working with the Last Reality.
Hey, if you made it to this point in the video, be sure to hit that like button and consider leaving a comment if we've missed anything. Thank you so much.
Near the end of Chapter 4, Season 2, the cracks were bigger, and they had vines growing in them. Various crack locations were being studied and had tents, campfires, and excavators around them. Clearly, something was happening. But what? Part 4 of the Syndicate quest became available. It was time for the Unseen to answer some questions and join the rest of the Syndicates in uniting against the Last Reality. Someone who was part of the Unseen Syndicate was making moves behind Highwire's back and talked to the Last Reality. With the beacons lit and the Syndicates united, the Peace Syndicate makes us an honorary member. The last thing Evie says to us is to call them if we need help. When we were near a payphone, however, with just a few days left of the season, Week 12's quest had us inspect the various excavation sites and put in seismographs to determine the strength of the earthquakes. NPCs around the island are now mentioning the quakes in their conversations. Something is definitely up. Between the dissension in the ranks, with members of the unseen contacting the last reality, and the craziness of the earthquakes ushering in a definite change, the build-up to Chapter 4 Season 3 is definitely ramping up with these last few days. In Chapter 4 Season 3, we were introduced to a whole new, or maybe really old biome as the cracks opened up and revealed the jungle. As old pieces of previous seasons' land masses fell away, we were presented with the main points of interest and landmarks around the jungle, along with various environmental changes. From the giant canopy trees, to the schools of tiny little fish in the muddy waters below, or the variety of wild flora, we explored what the new season had to offer. This new area had hot plants, grind vines, bomb flowers, stink flowers, and slurp flowers. We had the first update of the season, which brought in new weapons, items, map changes, and more storyline information. The MK assault rifle was super familiar, yet slightly different. Though the design was a tad different and the fire rate slower, the MK Alpha brought up the possibility of the 7 returning. Who designed the gun? A question for another time. We want to take a moment to thank everyone who uses code TwoNerdsOnACouch in the item shop and the Epic Games Store. We really appreciate your support.
In Chapter 4, Season 3, we discovered that Dr. Slone was still alive. She had been rescued and was investigating the wilds. There was a group that was also studying the jungle area, the Explorers. The Explorers built the apparatus for their research purposes, and Dr. Slone used it to discover that there was an eclipse inbound. Ancient markings on the jungle ruins were a warning of something unnatural coming to the island. Optimus Prime even warned us about impending doom.
I have been in contact with the one you call Slone, and while she may be an unlikely ally, she alone knows the path forward.
And Dr. Slone decided to call for help.
But you're the only one I trust to handle this. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need your help.
As we explored the new POIs and ran into different guards, we found new weapons to defend ourselves.
Sanguine Sweets, Reckless Retreat, and Eclipsed Estates were heavily guarded not only because of the museum-quality artwork and sculptures, but also because of what could be found in the vaults. Once you made your way through the high security, you had the possibility to heist out some mythic weapons that were stolen from the past. Midas's drum gun, Tiantina's kaboom bow, and the awesome Foundation's MK7 assault rifle. Through the snapshot quest, we learned that Dr. Slone had called on Nolan Chance to assemble a heist crew for something she was cooking up. We needed to recruit Nolan to steal something from Kato Thorne. You see, there was a specific reboot van that was strikingly different from the others, and it seemed as though someone was studying them. When we finally meet up with May to talk her into joining the crew, it turns out she was the one studying those reboot vans.
Together they were heisting the vaults of Kato Thorne, a voracious traveler with a hunger for the finer things in life. This time-traveling vampire wanted to add more to his collection. There is a bunch of storyline within the various bits of dialogue and in the level up quest as well. Treyarch Aurora is searching for Treyarch Nox. For some reason, Treyarch Nox has been snooping around near Kato Thorne's strongholds. As it turns out, Nox was searching for a relic that Kato had stolen from their kingdom. Nox found the relic and returned to their kingdom to build it back up. Aurora thanks us for our help and also returns home.
We entered the Fortnite Mayor's time period. There was a blood moon and Kato Thorne had transfigured into the Revenant form. He had become more powerful in order to protect his time machine. We got a couple of new weapons with the Woodstake shotgun and Kato Thorne's vampiric blade. Various NPCs got swapped out for spoopier snapshots of themselves, and Agent Jonesy mysteriously returned for a short while. During the Week 8 hotfix, there was a pretty major map change that took place in Frenzy Fields. Items from Chapter 1 Season 5 appeared alongside the Time Machine? After finally being able to recruit May, she has you steal some of Kato Thorne's chrono cells, which are then used to power the Time Machine. The heist crew was assembled and needed him out of the way so they could take the Time Machine for whatever purposes Dr. Slone had in mind. Slone called upon one more person to finalize her plans: Shimmerdesk. Through the dialogue in the Fortnite Mayor's quests, we find out Shimmerdesk had chosen the wood stake shotgun to take out Kato Thorne. With Thorne out of the way, Dr. Slone could use the Time Machine. In the very next week, all of those items vanished. The Time Machine was gone, and Jonesy disappeared. In Mega City, you could hear music from one of the billboards that sounded extremely familiar to those of us who played back in Chapter 1. What the heck was going on? Can you believe it's been 5 or 6 years since we've seen this map? Fortnite OG has been a crazy whirlwind of a season. We've gone back in time to Chapter 1, but it's just a little bit different this time. We started off Fortnite OG with Chapter 1 Season 5, but there are some differences. There are no low gravity zones from Kevin the Cube. Fatal Field is a bit different. The hero base and visitor base are fully intact, but the visitor is nowhere to be found. Or is he?
As we go around the map, we find that the Time Machine has crashed in Pleasant Park, Beth's favorite landing spot, and that Dr. Slone has left an audio log which confirms that Jonesy was sent back in time.
Jones, Slone here. You know when and where you are, and that means you know what you have to do. And what will happen on this side when you're done. Tomorrow, you take the Time Machine back. And tonight, I'm recording this. It occurs to me that I've never sent a message through time, so you might want to check back. Everything you do will ripple forward to this very moment. This might not even be the first time I've recorded this message. Do the job, Jones. It has to be done.
We also discovered a hidden gnome quest. There are 10 gnomes hidden around the map for a bit of an XP boost. It's also interesting to note that there are teddy bears accompanying nearly every gnome. One gnome location even has something from Chapter 4 Season 3. While locating the gnomes, we came across the sign at Risky Reels. The sign says, "Prepare for collision." Could this be a hint at the future of Fortnite?
In Week 2, we flashed forward to Chapter 1 Season 6. Kevin the Cube has lifted up the house in the middle of Loot Lake again, but this time he remains stationed above the 0 point. Another crazy change is that Rift events started happening, which brought in the island's only NPC, and the Grapple Glove, which originally appeared in Chapter 3. The ripples in time Slone warned Jonesy about are already happening. Since last we visited the Time Machine in Pleasant Park, it looks like Jonesy loaded it up on a flatbed truck to take it somewhere. As he was driving, he hit a discarded banana peel and lost control of the truck. The truck toppled over a veggie cart, and the engine flooded with water. Jonesy had to improvise and trudged across Loot Lake, carrying the Time Machine in a different cart. He then took a much-needed break on the banks of the lake. There we find another audio log from Dr. Slone.
Jones, Slone here. I feel like I've done this before, so let's assume I have. Unless this is deja vu. Alright, short version. You're back here for a reason. You're smart enough to figure it out. And it's not to change the future, by the way. Drop that fantasy right now. This is an extraction, and you're leading the way. You cannot hesitate in your duty, Jones. The world you're leaving is one of many, and there are more worlds than even you can imagine. Keep it that way. Do the job.
As we travel towards Dusty Divot, we can see that there's been quite a bit of restructuring going on. The diner area was being cleaned out, a launchpad area was being fabricated, and scaffolding was added to the first building. If Jonesy was busy dealing with the time machine and the scientist hasn't arrived via meteor yet, who was responsible for this Dusty Divot construction project? More differences are becoming clear between this Fortnite OG island and the original version of the island. There are no corrupted zones, Haunted Castle doesn't exist, and the parachute left by AIM is not on the island. Did other ripples in time happen before Jonesy got here?
After another flash forward, we are supposed to be reliving the loot pool, events, and map changes of Season 7 and 8. There are now glaringly obvious differences in the map between the original version of the Athena Island and this Fortnite OG island. Entire POIs and biomes are completely missing. The snow biome has shrunk significantly. Greasy Grove is not frozen, and the water around Viking Village is not frozen either. Happy Hamlet doesn't exist. The volcano, hot springs area, sunny steps, pirate ship, and jungly lagoon area are completely non-existent. The small pirate outposts do exist here, however. One of them even took over Grandma's house that overlooked Fatal Fields.
We take a visit to Loot Lake to check Jonesy's progress and see that Kevin is starting to pull the 0 point energy up. We'll put a pin in that for now. Moving on to the Dusty Divot, we can see that Jonesy has been plodding along with the time machine in tow. The construction project here has produced a rocket just like in Chapter 1, Season X. We still don't know who is behind this assemblage, but we hope to find out. Plus, Slone has another message for Jonesy.
Jones, Slone here. This is not my first message, is it? You must be making progress. Or you're screwing everything up. If you somehow end up back in the now, I will destroy this reality out of spite. Not that that would stop you from somehow bumbling back into my orbit. There's a reason why it's always you and me, time and time again. One of these times we're gonna get it right. And I'm pretty sure this is it.
We have now reached the final week of Fortnite OG. This season really has flown by. This week is said to be the mishmash of Seasons 9 and X. The map, however, is kinda nothing like either of those seasons. The newest, or really oldest set of changes that took place originally, such as Neo Tilted, Mega Mall, and Dusty being fully restored, are very clearly not here. Everything we once knew is being retconned out.
The things that did change this week are that Kevin has exposed the 0 point. It's interesting to see the 0 point fully intact, awake, and not messed around with besides being pulled up. The meteor that the scientist arrived on is back in the sky, which means he is now on the island with Jonesy. Together they, and whoever else has been working on the Dusty Divot construction, lifted the time machine up to strap it onto the rocket. We know Jonesy's supposed to extract someone or something from the past. But who or what could it be? We find the final audio log from Slone nearby.
Jones, Slone here. I've definitely left this message many times before, so get right to it, huh? This is the first time in countless lifetimes that I don't know what happens next. We're both heading off into the unknown. I guess this is goodbye for this me and that you. But we'll meet again. Reality's not done with us yet. Keep the campfires burning, Jones. Wherever and whenever you go.
We leave you with a few final thoughts or questions. What is that light in the distance? Does the sign at Risky Reels mean anything? Will we ever see Dr. Slone again? What about the 7? Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to use code 2nerdsonacouch in the item shop, and we'll see you next time.
Bye!